Well, I must be honest, it's a pity that I must say that law and order in South Africa, as far as crime is concerned, is a real crisis. I mean, just to take an example, the murder rate or the world average for murder is 7 per 100,000 of the population. In South Africa, it is 36 per 100,000 of the population. And if you look at the criminal justice system in South Africa, we have many problems. To give you one example, the forensics laboratories of the police, there's a backlog. And if we only look, for instance, at gender-based violence in South Africa, those DNA samples, we have a backlog of almost 200,000 samples. That means that there are victims of gender-based violence, women and girls that has been raped, and the perpetrators are still outside and waiting for more than 2 years to get the DNA test to ensure a successful conviction. So wow. You can imagine yourself. So unfortunately, when it comes to the police services in South Africa, we have many problems.
And what is fundamentally the problem? Is it because policing is too centralized, that it's in the hands of the Pretoria government and not in the hands of a local government, local municipal level?
There are various reasons for that. Firstly, it actually started in 2000 when the governing party, the ANC, started to appoint the National Commissioner of Police, not as an experienced police person, but political appointments. In 2000, we had Jackie Celebi. He was a diplomat, never been in the police services. He became the National Commissioner of Police. He didn't know what to do. In fact, he ended up in jail. The second was Becky Tsele, also a politician, was never a police person, and he had to leave the position because of allegations of corruption. The second one, around about 2013, was Ria Paihega. She was a social worker, never been in the police services, and since, and I can say from 2000 to end of 2017, we had police commissioners who had no experience as police men and women. Only by the end of 2017, November 2017, they then appointed an experienced commissioner of police, the President General Sitole. And you can think for yourself the decay in the police services as the national commissioner who doesn't want or doesn't know what to do. So that's one aspect. Another reason is because of affirmative action. And if I refer to affirmative action, unfortunately, positions that has been given to people, promotions, the management, the top management of police services, were not based on merit, was not based on experience, but on who do you know, are you, or do you have the right political connections? So the top management of police in South Africa became actually a management team that lacked the experience to be able to ensure that we have an effective police service. A third reason is the fact of training. They have adjusted the curriculums. They made it easy for people to pass their courses because of affirmative action. And therefore, the quality and the level of training in the police decreased. Just to give you one example, for instance, by the late 1990s, they stopped to give any training for police in when it comes to gatherings, public gatherings, and how to control public order.
Why did they do this?
Well, their approach was that was something for apartheid when they were part of the struggle, and they don't need it although it is actually quite wrong, because if you look at the service protests taking place in South Africa, they should have known that they should still train their people. They started to train again, but that only started around about 2008, and at the moment we only have about, say, 6,000 to 7,000 members of the police service who are effectively trained in public ordering police. The fourth thing I want to say is corruption. Corruption in the police services in South Africa is pandemic. Now, I know all over the world you will get some form of corruption in police services, but in South Africa, I say it's pandemic. You will see, for instance, there are certain cases, if you have the right money, the docket will disappear, and the police in itself taking bribes. I mean, we had a situation where, for instance, one police officer sold almost 9,000 firearms to, can I say, gangs in the Western Cape, where it was firearms that has been handed in to the police in amnesty periods, so that they were part of crime. We had situations, and it was in the newspapers, for instance, where criminals come to the police station at the evening. They are given a firearm, they go and commit the crime, and before light they just give back the firearm, and it's actually impossible to trace the firearm. So there are these basic issues, and in fact, it is actually a shame that I have to mention these things. But unfortunately, we must decide whether we want to be polite and diplomatic, or whether we want to be truth and put the truth on the table and be honest. I prefer to be honest, because I say we must know what the problems are, and then we can deal with it, or else you are misleading yourself and other people. But these are reasons why we are in this dear, or can I say, uneasy situation as far as police services and the criminal justice system is concerned in South Africa.
That's fascinating. And I recently watched a Devil's Dorp documentary which covered the murders in Krugersdorp. And those dockets in that case disappeared as well. That's why those murders went on for like 5 to 10 years. But so what would be the Freedom Fronts Plus remedy for this situation? How do we solve this problem on a systemic and structural level?
Well, firstly, of course, okay, we have an experienced commissioner of police. That is very important. But secondly, we say that they should do away with affirmative action, not only in the police services, in all state departments, because they put people in positions who are not competent to do the job and not qualified to do the job. So do away with affirmative action. Thirdly, we say they must stop black economic empowerment, because in South Africa, I give another name for BEE. I don't call it black economic empowerment. I call it black elite enrichment, because that is what it is. And you find it in the police service and all other departments. And the reason for that is, for instance, it's costing the taxpayers of South Africa enormous amount of money. We have an example, for instance, where Eskom, the electricity supplier in South Africa, where you can, for a fluorescent tube for a light that normally costs about 68 Rand at any hardware shop, they procure it for 900 Rand because of black economic empowerment. Because company A is black economic empowered, so they buy it for 68 Rand. Then you have another 2-3 companies that must benefit, and they increase the price, and that is costing the taxpayers of South Africa. Therefore, there's not enough money to ensure that you have, can I say, the latest, let's say the latest equipment when it comes to policing. If I take, for instance, cybercrime, you can forget about it. They don't have the ability to really look at that matter. And if you go to forensics, for instance, it's a problem. where they need certain equipment, which at this moment they don't have enough money to pay providers or suppliers to ensure that they have qualified and declared the instrument and calibrated to be used. So to say what we suggest should be done, and I've already said that a couple of times, ensure that you have competent people, ensure that you do away with affirmative action, ensure that you stop black economic empowerment, and then you must look into your training curriculums and ensure that the standards set by those training courses are of high standard, so that you have to ensure that the best of the applicants can become a member of the police services. If they only do those few steps, there will be a huge improvement.
And I love that, black elite enrichment. But but just to be clear, the Freedom Front Plus is not in favor of sending police to a federal or a local level. I believe the DA is in favor of that. The Freedom Front Plus is?
No, we're also in favor of say that you have to decentralize the police services. For instance, we feel strongly that each province, for instance, like you get in other Western countries, in the United States, like for instance, the sheriff and all that sort of people, as far as I know, they get elected by the people to ensure that they do their work. So I know, for instance, the UK, I went on a study tour there, that the people elect an experienced person to be the provincial or the regional commissioner of police. And that's what we should have in South Africa as well. So we are in favor of decentralizing the police services as far as possible to the lower level, where the people can have more direct inputs in, can I say, appointing and actually firing a police commissioner if he or she doesn't do their work properly.